FLIKO.
Someone said, do you recommend building your own studio as a producer? Building your own studio sounds like intense. That sounds like architecture is involved. I think having your own studio as a producer is one of the most valuable things you can do because it puts you in so many different power positions. If you can say to people, yeah, come work in my spot for free anytime. Are there going to be some months where you're like, oh, I really need some help with the rent? They've been here every day. This music's made no money. Yes. But when you start telling people, you can pull up at me whenever you want. Yeah, pull up at me. Pull up at me tomorrow morning. Pull up at me tonight. Pull up at me next week. Whenever you want for free. I'll engineer it. I'll do the beats. That's how I got every placement. My space wasn't super nice. It barely had a mini fridge in it. But because I was always telling people all the time, yo, come to my spot for free. Whenever you want, stay as long as you want, work on whatever you want. I'll make any beats you want. I'll engineer whatever you want. People are like, okay, I got a real session tonight at a big expensive studio. I'll go sit at Kenny's and smoke all day and make some, and then be like, oh wait, I like the Kenny song more than the other song. Here I am. Quickly said, learn to mix too. Very important. I think all of it to me happened as it was going because my songs were like, when I first started recording people, it would sound so and I would have to just learn like, oh, you don't do this, you don't do that. I learned from up, but because I had the place where people would pull up and hang, pull up and smoke, pull up and play, pull up and listen, pull up and whatever, it just like became where they wanted to go because there was no pressure. And if they left with no music, it cost them nothing. And if they left with an album, it cost them nothing. Either way. At the end of the day, do our managers go talk about the price of the beats if a song's come out and the publishing and all the other? Yes, of course. But in general, there's no studio cost. There's no engineer fee. There's no, you know what I mean, like runner cost. There's no nothing. It's just us hanging in my spot that I'm paying barely $1,000 a month for in rent. And some months I could barely pay it. But yeah, like that was the strength that I had that producers all around me in the same city as me who were just pulling up to sessions didn't have sometimes, you know? And I'm not saying like they could all afford it. I'm not talking about people who can't afford it. I'm talking about people who get 20K a beat, 30K a beat. I just decided like, I'm going to get this little room and have people pull up on me. But you know what that means? I got all the songs. I got all the vocals. I got all the stems. I know my tag is on it. I know how it left my studio. I know what the quality sounded like whenever it left from me. I remember being at a studio one time and finally thinking about it. And I was going to studios so much. And I was like, what is the difference? Why can't I just do this at my house? Why does it sound so good when I'm at the studio? Like, what makes it sound good? Is it this room? Is it because the microphone is 10 grand? And one time somebody showed me that all we were using at that studio was like this one preamp and this one Avalon thing at the time. And I was like, holy. So you're telling me the difference between me coming to this studio and having to spend hundreds of dollars every day and this and that is I could go pay $3,000 one time and I never got to go to the studio again and my shit will sound just as good. And he was like, yeah. The next week, as soon as I got a check for some show I did, and I was like, okay, I'm going to buy I bought Alpha 80s Focal speakers. I bought like an Apogee Duet. I bought an Avalon preamp. I bought a Neumann like TLM something microphone, TLM 49 or some shit. And I had spent like total like $3,000 or something, maybe 4 total. But it was like all the bread I had at the time. And then I started recording vocals and shit, and I was like, oh, I'm never going to the studio ever again. And the cave was born. And that was it. Like, the difference between you going to these big rooms and you being at the crib is not that, it's like a little bit of equipment. And that thing, the tube tech, that's the thing you see on vocals at every studio. If it's not going through that, it's going through a 2A. One or the other. 98% of the time, I would say. When you go into a studio that costs a lot of money, you're seeing vocals run through a tube tech or a 2A. 98% of the time. If you're at the crib, if you end up getting a check, if you end up working hard for the next couple months, saving some money, doing a payment plan, whatever it is, and you get one preamp and one nice compressor and one nice microphone, your vocals sound no different than your favorite artist. No different. Do you understand that? Like that's the whole difference between you and sounding like whoever. Like the big Kanye. You know what I mean? Sounding like Kid Cudi, sounding like Travis, sounding like whoever. People talking about channel strips, this and that. I'm telling you, that's all you need. If you have a 1073, a tube tech, and a nice microphone. Let's say like that's why I have the setup I have. This is no different than what's getting used. Like if you go see Thug recording at the nicest studio ever, he's using this. Future's using this. No difference. So I think people have this thing in their minds. If they go to really nice studios or they've never been to really nice studios, either one, where they think, oh my God, well, when I come here, it sounds amazing because the gear and because the engineering and it's all shit that's like would take years to learn. And it's probably $10,000, probably so much money I could never afford it. It's like, nah, for like $3,000, like $4,000 and a little bit of YouTube, your vocals can sound like Ariana Grande's vocals at the crib. Now you just got to make good songs. It's not going to make your shit better. So I know it all sounds exciting. Your music still sucks if it sucks. So it'll just sound really good inside. But it makes a difference, you know? And to me, I used to start thinking all the time, like, it's going to take me years until I can own a studio that'll sound as good as the big studios. Bro, the Cave is a room, but the records that came out of the Cave sound no different than big records. And you can't tell if I did the vocal or if Alex Toomey did the vocal. It don't sound any different, you know? So like, that's shit I realized only how many years ago? Like 4 or 5 years ago. Question for Kenny. I'm living in an apartment at the moment, and I always having troubles with neighbors saying it's too loud when I make music. Because of this, I'm not able to record live drums, even though that's what I want to be doing. Do you have any tips on dampening drums? Do you think it's worth it to get an electric kit and just trigger stuff? That's not live drums. You just playing samples with your hands and feet. Man, it's tough. I don't think dampening is the issue because you might not want a dampened drum sound, but maybe there's something you can do to deaden it a little bit in the room or to put some kind of things around you. I had a friend, Jay Graham, great producer. He produced like Broccoli for Yachty and Drum, produced a lot. But Jay Graham, in his apartment, built all these little, like, I don't know what you would call them, but like sound diffusers, basically. And they look like almost like pads you would hit for like football practice. But they were these big pieces of like cloth, almost looked like a piece of a mattress. And they had these like wood things that held them. And he had them all around the room. And it made the sound so dead. You'd be outside his apartment door. You couldn't really hear. So I don't know. Maybe you could try something, or you find somewhere else to record drums. I never did the home studio thing. I never understood it. I never really made beats at the crib. I always had like a real little rehearsal studio. When I first came to LA, I had a rehearsal studio. It was like $400. It was just a tiny room lockout in a building in Van Nuys. $400 a month. It was not very nice. I had a fold-up table from Home Depot in there with KRKs on it and an Apogee 1 or whatever, and just was doing whatever I was doing in there. But even at that time, like, I left the crib because I wanted to go somewhere I could be loud. I wanted to be able to turn my speakers all the way up. I wanted to be able to make music at any hour, so it was worth it to me to just have somewhere to go. I couldn't have done live drums there even if I wanted to, but I don't know. It's hard for me to answer that question because I don't have experience in that area.